Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be reviewing episode 3 of The Walking Dead Season 8 titled Monsters. So as I said in the reaction video, David fucked off to America and left me behind. I'm stuck in shitty London. So I got to do a review by myself. I didn't break down the episode with David. I've not spoke to him about it because I thought he's on holiday, so there's no point bothering about a video. Let me just take myself. So jumping right into it, the Kingdom. Let's talk about the Kingdom. I said in multiple videos before that their confidence is Ezekiel's confidence is gonna fuck him up. It's gonna come back to bite him, and it has. Throughout this episode, we see that at the beginning they have a strategy because they know the Savior's coming for them because they got the radio. But by the end, they're not expecting an attack and they get blindsided. They get attacked from behind, and I believe they're attacked. I think that is Gavin's outpost. So I think that is where the guns are, where Rick and Daryl are going to be heading to next. But I'm not entirely sure on that. But the point is the Kingdom's fucked, and if Shiva's around, Shiva's fucked too. Because like I said, I think I said it in the last reaction, if Shiva jumps one guy, there's other Saviors are going to shoot her, or just something like that, do you know what I mean? So let's hope Shiva doesn't get involved in this. Now on to all the Morales stuff. This is the stuff that I've got to speak about the most, I think. Now this, I still think this is bad writing. I have been reading everyone's comments on our video. I haven't replied to them yet. I'm going to reply to them. But I have been reading everyone's comments, and a lot of people basically are saying that Morales' death wasn't fan service, and it was done because it's meant to show Rick how good guys can become bad guys, and how they're not much different from each other. They're pretty much the same. People are saying that it's for Daryl. Like, this is for the build up to the conflict between Rick and Daryl. The fact that throughout this episode Daryl was just ruthless and not giving anyone a chance, and like the fact that he knew Morales and just shot him in the head straight away is showing how far, like, how pissed Daryl actually is and how fed up he is. Now all that is true, but we've seen it before. Like, we didn't need Morales to return, no matter what. It was fan service because we've seen that. For example, the comment that is to show that good people can become bad, to show like the too far gone thing. We've seen that multiple times where good people become bad people. We don't need to see that again. So if that's the reason they brought him back, to bring Morales back to show that people can become too far gone, then that's just ridiculous, because not only is it so far-fetched to begin with, and I've said this a lot, it's so far-fetched to begin with, to bring him back just to prove that people are too far gone, it's just that. Nah, it doesn't make sense to me. It can't be to show that Rick is the same as Negan and the Saviors either, because they already showed that last episode. They showed that when he killed Gracie's dad, when he looked into the mirror, it was as if, oh, I just done exactly what Negan done. He took Glenn away from Maggie and the baby, and I've just took this guy away from his baby. Like, I've wrecked a family just like Negan's done. They showed that last episode. Why would they need to enhance that with Morales? It doesn't make sense. So at this point, bringing Morales back is fan service. It has to be. People are also saying as well they're bringing him back to basically kill the meme. That technically is doing it for the fans. Like, you're not doing it for the story. It's nothing to do with the story at that point, is it? You're doing it for the fans, to shut the fans up about him. Morales didn't have to come back. You could have had another Savior there. You could have had a different Savior have a gun to Rick, have a conversation with him, not obviously about the same thing, but a different conversation with him. Maybe have Rick say he'll give him his word, and then Daryl shoots him in the head, and then the same thing happens later on with the other Savior. To show that there's going to be conflict between Daryl and Rick. You didn't need Morales there at all. And I'll stick by my view of bringing Morales back is pointless and pure fan service, because the stuff that people are saying that they tried to show, they've shown before. At this point, we're 8 seasons in. We know bad people can become good people, can become bad people. We don't need to see that again. We've seen it for 8 seasons pretty much. So I'm not a fan of his death at all. I wasn't even a fan that he came back. I was happy about it because it's just an old face from season 1, isn't it? But if I could choose to do that part differently, I would have had Morales not come back at all, because it was pointless. If they were going to make him stick around and actually have a purpose, maybe be another inside man for Rick, then that would have been better than just killing him off. I'm sorry, but not even one episode. It was what? I don't even think he was on the screen for 5 minutes. It was probably under 5 minutes, and it was pointless. It served no purpose to the story. That's one of the only few times, along with like Andrea's death and all that, but let's not go into that. That's a whole other shitstorm. But it's one of those times where you think, what the fuck was that writing? Like, that was just pointless. What was the point of bringing him back? Moving on from that, the conflict between Daryl and Rick. This is something that I'm looking really forward to, because it's something that I don't think anyone expected. Like, we were told that we were going to see a more badass Daryl, more ruthless Daryl, but it seems like there's going to be a conflict between Rick and Daryl, and that's something we haven't seen since season 1. We saw it a bit in season 2, but like, they really didn't like each other in the beginning of season 1, so we're going to be getting some of that. And Norman Reedus said on Talking Dead, we're going to see Daryl in hand-to-hand combat with someone you don't expect, and I have a feeling that's Rick. If we see a fight scene with Rick and Daryl, that will be fucking epic. That will be so cool. I really want to see that, I'm not going to lie. Because I can see throughout this season, Daryl's going to keep doing this. It's going to go on through a few episodes, I reckon, where Rick's going to do something and Daryl's going to completely shut it down, do the opposite. And he may end up putting himself in danger, may end up putting Rick in danger, may end up putting one of the three communities in danger. And I feel like maybe Rick's going to have to get to a point where he's going to have to like beat some, or try and beat some sense into Daryl. I don't see how it's going to work because they're so close. Like, they're so close and they've been so close for so long. So I don't see how it's going to get to that point where Rick's going to have to, like, try and take Daryl down, try and, like, beat him up or something like that. But I have a feeling it's going to get to that because when Norm really said it's going to be a fight that no one expects, I can't really see it being anyone else. It could be someone else, but the way he said it on Talking Dead, it was like, yeah, it's going to lead up to a fight with Rick. And with how ruthless we've seen Daryl this season, I have a feeling this is going to play into the whole, like, who's going to stay around, Daryl or Dwight, because there's a lot of speculation about that. A lot of people think Daryl's going to die, a lot of people think Dwight's going to die. I personally think Dwight's going to die, or that they're going to keep both of them around. They can keep both of them around, because they're not... When I first thought Dwight was coming to the series, I think everyone's thought was Daryl's way too similar to him in the comic. Like, they're pretty much the same character. But there's a lot of differences in the show, so they can keep them around and keep them separate characters. But I feel like, in the mood Daryl's in, and the way he's been acting, and this is only the third episode in, he's going to carry on doing this. I have a feeling no matter how much Dwight helps them, no matter how much he helps them out with Negan and becomes the inside man, I feel like Daryl's going to shoot him. No matter what, his end result is death after what he'd done with Denise and all that. I don't even think Rick can talk him out of it, because we've seen in this episode, Daryl's not even listened to a word Rick said. So I have a feeling this is going to play into Dwight's death. Daryl's probably going to take him out of rage, and maybe that could spark like a fight between Rick and Daryl, saying like, you didn't have to do that, he helped us. And then you get what I mean, just something like that. But it's good to see Daryl so aggressive, since we've not seen it for ages, so it's good to finally see it again. I'm actually happy they're doing it. And it just goes to show that he does have much more story to go through, with all those people out there who hate Daryl saying he has no storyline, he's been a waste for a long time. It just goes to show they weren't done with him. Me and David have discussed before, we're probably going to do a separate video on it. There is more to come with Daryl. So let's talk about Aaron in this episode. Ross Marquand's acting was amazing in this episode. We said goodbye to Eric, knew he was going to die after that shot, because he dies in the comics. But only difference is in the comics he gets shot in the head, and he pretty much doesn't get there's no goodbye scene. So I'm glad they added that into the show, because we got to see how much they did care for each other. Do you know what I mean? We've not really got much screen time with Aaron and Eric, so it was good to get that one last moment. So they have that emotional moment, and Aaron doesn't really say goodbye. He doesn't necessarily have his final goodbyes, because he's hopeful that Eric's going to survive. And once they've won this tiny war against the Saviors at this outpost, he goes back. Eric's obviously gone, and he sees him in the distance. Scott says that's not him, and at first my dumb ass was thinking, what is that not actually him? But what he means is obviously that's not him. That's not the guy you loved. That isn't Eric. That's just another undead creature. And I know Aaron couldn't bring himself to do it, because like he said on Talking Dead, like Ross Marquand said on Talking Dead, Morgan went through a very similar thing in the first episode where he couldn't take down his wife. He couldn't shoot Jenny because it's his wife, isn't it? It's a difficult thing to do. So he had that sort of mindset with Eric, but I don't know why you wouldn't go and take him out. Like, he's going to be wandering the earth. That must bother you more than taking him out, surely. But then the counter to that would be, it's like what Scott said, it's not him anymore. At that point, it's not Eric, so what does it matter? So Morgan and Jesus episode, that whole section there. Before I start, I just want to say that Saviour, Jared with the long hair, I really cannot wait until he dies. Like, he's going to get a painful and brutal death, and it's going to be worth it. It's going to be so satisfying to see him get such a brutal death. I just want him to get his head caved in by Morgan, but we'll get that. We'll get that satisfaction. So Morgan and Jesus this episode obviously had some conflict. That fight scene was amazing. The soundtrack was perfect. The way it was done was really... It was done really well. I felt like they were equally matched, I guess. That's how I saw it. I mean, I know Jesus got more hits on him and stuff like that, but I feel like if it come down to a fight between the two, it's one of those things where you wouldn't know who would win. And they've done a good job of actually showing that, not making one look more powerful than the other. Although I think maybe Jesus would probably win, because he's more trained than Morgan, obviously. But one thing I said in the reaction is, when the walkers drop down the hill, and then a few of the Saviors run off and Morgan chases them, that is very similar to Here's Not Here, the episode dedicated to Morgan where he met Eastman and all that. When he's chasing those guys down at the beginning of the episode with a stake, a wooden stake, he's chasing them down, he's hunting them down, and he ends up killing them. Ends up choking one out and just shoving the stick through the guy's throat. So it reminded me a lot like that. This time he was hunting to kill them just like he was back then. So I think maybe it would have reminded him of that. Right away he's like, nah, fuck this. He takes a shot and it hits one of the Saviors directly in the head, until Jesus comes and disarms him. And throughout this episode, and since last episode as well, I've been thinking, Jesus, what the fuck are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing. And even now I don't understand what he's doing. Like, I mean, I understand what he's doing. He said what he's going to try and do. Him and Maggie were talking about it, but I still don't see why he thinks it's going to work and why it even matters. Because his whole idea is to keep the Saviours away from Negan until they deal with Negan, then they can work with the Saviours. Because the Saviours, in his eyes, are all scared of Negan. That's the only reason they're working for him. But he doesn't know that. There's people like Jared who are genuinely assholes. I don't feel like they're scared to be with Negan. I feel like they love being with Negan because they get to abuse their power. Like, people, you can't work with people like that. So, you know, I don't get Jesus' mindset in this. I don't understand why he wants to do this, because he doesn't know for a fact that they all don't want to be. He's basically just acting on what Dwight's doing. Like, he thinks, oh look, just because Dwight's scared and doesn't want to work for Negan, maybe all the rest of them do as well. And that's not the right mindset, I think, because we've seen people like Jared, who are just genuinely dickheads. Like, there's going to be no working with those kind of people. Simon as well. People like that. You can tell they like working with Negan. And then he walks off into the woods, which I said before, last time he was in the woods was when he was at his darkest. He was at his worst. It was the worst point in time for Morgan. He reached like an all-time low. He was killing literally every single person that got in his way. He was just clearing. That's what he was doing. He was clearing. So it's not a good idea to be letting Morgan go off in the woods by himself, but he will be back. A lot of people think he's going to be gone for good the rest of the season, but he's not. He'll be back. I'm not sure how they're going to bring him back, but he will be back. I'm thinking maybe he's going to do something heroic. Like, he'll come back when we probably least expect him to. Something like that, probably. So that weasel little bitch Gregory manages to get his way back into the hilltop again, because he's good at talking, isn't he? That's what he does. He talks and talks and talks and always gets his own way. So he's been let back into the hilltop. It won't last long, though. He left Gabriel. He knows exactly what he done. He will say he don't know who Gabriel is, because he's just that ignorant prick that he has been throughout the whole series. But he does know what he's done, and if Gabriel survives and he tells someone that, he's gone. He's a goner, 100%. But I think the main reason Maggie didn't lock him out, and it's because what David actually said this. He actually tweeted this. He said that Maggie's probably thinking of what Glenn would do. And Glenn in this situation, we've seen him in a situation before with Nicholas, where even Nicholas tried to kill him. Like, Nicholas straight out tried to kill Glenn, and Glenn still saved his life and still thought something good can come of you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can change. People can always change. I think that's the exact same thing with Gregory here. So Maggie's probably thinking what Glenn would do. What would Glenn do? He wouldn't execute him. He wouldn't do anything like that. He'd bring him back in for hope. You know, hope that people can change. So people may think that's Maggie's stupid decision. But I guess that is some reasoning behind it. And if you think of it that way, it makes more sense. So that's about it for the review. I've gone over pretty much everything. Obviously not spoken about small details like Rick taking the Polaroids and all that. That's self-explanatory. We're going to see those in the future. He's going to show them to Negan at some point. He's got a picture of him cowering. He's got a picture of all his dead saviors. So that's going to come back. We're going to see a lot of that. That's payback for him with the taking a Polaroid of Glenn, obviously. I must say, I'm looking so forward to seeing this building conflict between Daryl and Rick, because it is there. Norman Reedus has acknowledged it, and he's like smiling and stuff, his mannerisms, the way he was acting on Talking Dead, he knows there's something that's going to go down there. I really do hope we see like some epic fight between Rick and Daryl. Nothing that would make them kill, not that kind of fight where it'd be like his goal is to kill him or anything like that. It would just be like, you know how brothers fight and all that shit. It'd be something like that. The kingdom's in trouble, and exactly what I said. We were going to see the fall of Ezekiel, his confidence. We've seen everyone be affected so far throughout this season, the 3 episodes we have had, and now it's Ezekiel's turn. Another thing I want to quickly mention is I do think that baby Gracie may potentially be the little girl in the flash forward, in the New Beginning flash forward, because it's got the same prop. I did say this in reaction, but I'm trying to bring it up again. Same prop. Walking Dead don't do stuff like that for no reason. They don't reuse props that obvious. They've done it for a reason, but what we didn't see though is, we didn't see Rick hand the baby and the toy over, do you know what I mean? Like, there was no son of the toy being brought back, so I don't know, maybe it was a reused prop. I don't know, I'm not sure. You tell us what you think down below. I'm leaning more on the side of it being Gracie though, because like I said, The Walking Dead don't really do stuff like that where they reuse props like that obvious, so I think that it may be showing Gracie in the future, and that could explain the 3 different timeline thing where Rick's got like red eyes and he's crying, after the war. Maybe Judith has died or something like that, because I can't see them bringing up 3 babies on the show. Like, they barely have time, they barely have screen time, hardly any screen time at all for Judith. And they've got Maggie's baby coming in, they got Herschel Jr. coming in soon, so, and now Gracie. So you're not going to be able to fit 3 babies in, like, do you know what I mean, when you're struggling with 1 already. So I don't know, I don't see why they're bringing another baby for the sake of it. It just seems a bit pointless to me to do that, to bring in another baby just for the sake of having another baby. Like, everything in The Walking Dead has to do something for the story, so unless it's Morales, then it doesn't have to do with the story. But that's about it for this review, a lot shorter than usual, because usually I get my thoughts out, David gets his thoughts out, so it's probably going to be like half the time it usually is. So I hope you enjoyed. Twitter links are down below if you want to come and follow us. Leave it a like, share it around, and as always, cheers for watching.